Right.
So you have to cover your ears while I tell the camera.
Okay, 1 second.
Hello, and welcome back to the Two Cents Podcast. I'm Hannah.
And I'm James.
Today, we're going to be answering some of the most common questions we got on our recent viral interview with senators on Capitol Hill that clearly ruffled a few feathers, and we just want to clear the air and give you some answers to some of the questions that we saw most frequently. And then we're also going to give you some financial transparency surrounding our trip to Philly, including how much our Airbnb cost, our overall travel costs, and some miscellaneous expenses that we were not expecting to incur regarding our pets.
And if you guys are wondering why we don't have the middle shot that we usually do,
If you're watching this on YouTube,
yeah, that's thanks to Semi. So here's a picture of Semi. Say thank you, Semi.
Semi got into our SD card pouch and he destroyed every SD card we had except for two.
Except for two. So right now you guys are getting what's left.
I didn't include that actually in our roundup of costs, but we should, because if you know anything about filming, this was a very expensive treat.
Yeah. We'd like to say thank you to Capital One Cafe, our sponsor.
We love going to the Capital One Cafe, not only to record our podcast, obviously here, but also because we love a handcrafted beverage. I'm drinking my favorite, the sparkling matcha lemonade.
And I'm drinking a caramel latte because I'm basic and I love it.
You are a little basic, but that's okay. If you want to try any of the drinks on their menu and come to a Capital One Cafe to reserve a nook like this, if you want some quiet private space to study, or you can try any of the handcrafted beverages using the link in the description below.
So let's get into the pod.
Last week, we shared a highly anticipated video where we went to Capitol Hill and interviewed some really esteemed senators and asked them how much they make. More specifically, the senators we interviewed were Senator Elizabeth Warren from Massachusetts, Senator Cory Booker from New York, Senator Ruben Gallego from Arizona, and Senator Elisa Slotkin from Michigan. This was a brand partnership. We were compensated to create this video, and more than anything, what they wanted us to focus on was the Republican tax law that actually the week we did the interviews had been voted into law by mostly Republicans.
Yeah.
So yes, we were compensated to do the video, but there is more to the story, specifically that we really wanted to ask the senators how much they made. That's what we do.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically, that is what we do.
Right. And the thing that we were thinking about most was this video would not be well received if we didn't ask how much they made. It would be kind of weird to just gloss over that. And that's where things got really tricky because we know that federal salaries are completely public, so all the senators were actually surprisingly open to talk about how much they made from a salary perspective. We didn't anticipate the backlash that we would receive for not going further and asking about net worth, insider trading, stocks, things like that. And there's a very valid reason why we didn't ask that.
We don't ask people what their net worth is or what are they doing with their finances outside of their salary.
Right. We were just seeing it as how much do you make, which is what we've always done. And this isn't like anything new. If you look back, we actually interviewed Mark Cuban at a Shark Tank event, and I asked him, how much do you make? And he said he doesn't make a salary. He makes money from his investments, which is where it gets complicated. So we actually didn't get a number from Mark Cuban either, but we did learn how much the salary is for senators. And that's what we wanted to focus on. It gets really complicated when you ask about the nitty gritty. And also, I want to be very clear. We are not responsible for their insider trading. We aren't responsible for what they do with that money. We just ask and they give us the answer. Do you really think that if we had asked them, Elizabeth Warren, for example, how much do you trade in insider trading? Do you think she would have given us an answer or even the time of day? No, like that's all conspiracy, not to discredit it, but that's just not what we do. We try to keep it very simple. You know, this is how much you can expect to make as a senator. Whether or not they should be insider trading and having the opportunity to trade stocks is a completely different conversation. And if you're curious, we don't believe they should be allowed to. I don't think elected officials should be allowed to trade stocks because then you get the problems with insider trading. But that's not what we wanted to focus on in that video.
Yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, our biggest thing is career exploration for the most part and informing you of what that job can make you. So us doing these videos with the senator was for that purpose, to inform you that, hey, if you decided to run for Senate, for a Senate seat, then this is how much you could be looking to make or anticipate from your salary itself.
And in a perfect world, that should be all that you make. Like, you
Correct.
shouldn't be allowed to make money on the side. You shouldn't be allowed to be funded by these big organizations. Like, I fully agree with the comments of people being frustrated that they have huge sums of wealth, but that's not our fault. And
Yeah,
I was really disappointed by that reaction.
yeah, a lot of their frustration is just misdirected. And because they can't, well, they don't want to contact, because you can contact any senator that you want to. You can contact your senator and tell them, "Hey, I'm not okay with you insider
We said
trading."
that in the video. We said
Correct.
contact your representatives, but nobody listened
But
to that
nobody
part.
wants to do that.
Mhm.
Instead, they reach out to what they see as the easiest target, our page, because
Mhm.
that's where they're watching the video.
It was really disappointing. It was something that I was really proud of, even if it had been any senator, like not just those four senators. I thought it was quite an honor to be invited to speak with them, to come to Capitol Hill, and to have this transparent conversation with senators. I think it's so cool that we got to ask four senators, how much do you make? And broke this huge money taboo. Another really common question we got was, why did we only speak with Democrats?
Yeah, and that one's pretty simple. It's just that Republicans haven't reached out to us to have this conversation. It's not as though we seek these things out, but an opportunity is an opportunity.
Yeah, I've said it time and time again. Workers' rights and pay transparency is a bipartisan issue. If you are a worker and you believe in being paid what you deserve for your work, that's a bipartisan issue. That shouldn't be a left thing. That shouldn't be a right thing. It shouldn't be according to the party. But if you look at actual policy that protects workers' rights and believes in fair pay, there's a reason that it's only blue states that have pay transparency laws. So it's not like we're trying to single out senators and only speak to one party, but we are interested in speaking to the party that is doing things to protect workers' rights. And so that's why we wanted to speak with these Democrats. They were the ones that were open to having the conversation and also provided by the brand. I will give that transparent side of it, that the partnership we did with Unrig Our Economy set us up with those senators. There were tons more senators that throughout the day did talk to other creators there, but we had to catch our train, so we weren't able to speak with them. We only got to speak with those four based on their available schedule. But if there were Republican senators there, we would have spoken with them. I invite any Republican senator team to reach out to us, because we would love to have a conversation with you about how much senators make. But please remember that if you are frustrated that your senator has a net worth over $1 million, that frustration should be applied to every senator and every party, not just Democrats. Because the thing that drove me nuts from these comments, it seemed like a hate train from the right really
Yeah,
picked up
definitely.
on
I've
that.
caught that.
So there was a little bit of like, only a certain demographic commenting. So it felt like it was really rooted in that group. But that group of people that really love to talk about the libs, did you know that 9 of the 10 wealthiest senators are Republicans? And they have a significantly larger wealth than Elizabeth Warren's 10 or 20 million, whatever you're reporting, or whatever source you're looking at says. We're talking about the wealthiest senator, Rick Scott from Florida, has a net worth of over $500 million. If you're frustrated that Elizabeth Warren has a net worth of however million, you should also be frustrated with the Republicans. It goes both ways.
Yeah, it definitely does. And a lot of the times in the comments, it seems as though it's like one party that is, primarily doing a lot of the commenting. And the way that I see that is, these are the ones that are more open to making these comments. Like, it's not that other people don't think the same. By all means, at times I look at senators and I go, yeah, you're definitely making too much.
Right.
But
I agree.
I'm not going to go on somebody else's page and go, well, you're the reason why,
Hmm. However you feel about it, we believe in standing up for our beliefs of protecting workers and their families, and giving massive corporations and billionaires another tax break doesn't do that. So that was the purpose of the video, and we hope we answered your questions around it. We welcome, once again, any Republicans that want to chat with us about however much they make. We can ask about net worth, but I don't think that they want to have that conversation, and there's a reason why.
And you could point out as the constituent, hey, there's a channel that's having these conversations, and because you represent me, I'd like to see you there.
Yeah, please send them our way, make the referral. We'd love to have the conversation with them.
But also, at that same time, ask them about insider trading since it's so important to you.
Because we will. Apparently, we missed out on the opportunity before, so we won't miss it again.
And now to something that's a little bit more uplifting. Let's talk to you guys about our Philly trip and how much that has cost us, at least so far.
I know the senator just their reactions was so disheartening. Like, I was so proud of it. And yeah, let's talk about something more uplifting. Kind of uplifting.
Yeah.
The finances of it has been a little bleak.
Yeah. So as you guys know, we are currently in Philly. We've been here for the past 3 weeks.
We moved here on April 1st.
Yeah, April 1st. And since we've been here, just a little overview, it's been a great space. Philly's weather has definitely taken a turn for the best, which has definitely been a little uplifting. But let's start this conversation off with why did we move in the first place?
Yeah, just a quick recap if you didn't watch one of our previous episodes where we talked about the Philly move. We have had major problems with our house back in the Northern Virginia area. More specifically, it doesn't have a foundation and the back half of it is sinking. So there was a lot of stress around that, a little bit of worry about safety, although I think that's a little bit more panicked than it should be, but that's just my anxiety being like, oh my gosh, the house is going to slip out from under us.
Also, we're first-time homeowners, so when you hear something like this, you think, oh, that's drastic, like we need to get this fixed. But after doing a little bit of research, it has helped us alleviate some of that pain and worry from worried about the house is going to, sink on itself.
Yeah, and as soon as we get back in the Northern Virginia area in mid-May, we have plans to start making movement on fixing the issues that we have with the house. But it was just weighing on us a lot, and we were in desperate need of just a new scenery, a new environment, one that wasn't in the house that was making us very stressed. And that comes with a lot of privilege, which I just want to acknowledge first and foremost. I feel so grateful and lucky that we are finally in a position where we have saved enough money to pad our mortgage for a year, to not worry about paying the mortgage for a year. And we have a good amount of savings that we were like, we can take a little bit of this out and just go take a break, go escape, and go to a new environment where that's not top of mind and stressing us out every day. So that had a lot to do with why we decided to move to Philly. It was also closer to New York without New York prices.
Yeah, so we were kind of taking like a work vacation.
Yeah, like a work vacation. So it's been really nice. I feel rested, relieved, love being here in Philly, and the prices, as I mentioned, has not been that bad. So let's break it down. For living, we looked at a couple different places, but obviously we weren't staying for a full year. We were only going to stay for about a month. So it was hard to find an actual apartment on, Zillow or any place that typically leases a space for longer than a year. So we had to look at Airbnb. I remember I looked at another site that one of our friends, Pat, recommended to us. And I found a great place in Fishtown that was really cheap. It was like $3,000 or something a month for a townhome. But they never got back to me.
Yeah, I think that was a scam because honestly, the house was spectacular, but them not contacting you back, I mean, how many times did you try?
I emailed, I called, I even called, and I was like, if they don't respond to my voicemail, which is like last resort for me, then it's not happening.
Yeah.
And that's what ended up happening. So we ended up finding a space on Airbnb. But there were a couple factors that were really important to us when it came to finding a place. Number one, we needed good location.
Yeah.
We wanted to be in a walkable area in our home in Northern Virginia. It's very much suburban. You have to get in the car to go anywhere, not very walkable. And I think that's something that I was definitely missing, that I just wanted to be able to get up in the morning and go walk around the block and get a cup of coffee instead of feeling like I had to get in the car for everything. So we had to be downtown, and we ended up finding a spot in Rittenhouse. We're not going to tell you more specifically.
Yeah, you guys don't need to know more than that, but just know Rittenhouse.
When we leave, we'll share more details about the location, but just for safety, we're going to just be pretty basic there and say the Rittenhouse area, which is an expensive area of town, but beautifully located central to Philly. So we found a great spot there. and it's a townhome that is shared with like
Two other units. So there's a downstairs unit and then there's an adjacent unit. All living quarters are completely separate. Our townhouse or our portion of the townhouse
it's
is,
basically a townhouse.
yeah, the portion of the townhouse that we are in, one of the units is actually four
Four
floors.
floors.
Yeah, with a rooftop patio, which is super nice.
Yeah, 4 floors, rooftop balcony. That has been so nice for gardening. But it's also really nice. Like it's beautifully renovated. It's got all the bells and whistles, and our pets have adjusted quite well to it as well.
Yeah, it's a 2 bedroom, 2 bath, like we said, multi-leveled unit, straight walk up. So it's super nice. Like I feel as though like it's enough space for us and the pets.
And drum roll, please, for the total cost. For 39 nights, so a little bit over a month, we paid $6,260.96. So basically $6,261,
Yeah.
which is pretty expensive, but I like to think about it as a overall vacation cost. So for 39 nights, that's pretty good for me. It averages out to about $140 a night.
Yeah, and the way that I look at it too was because we're getting this townhouse for over a month, it's more so that price that we're paying has to equate to enough to be able to cover their mortgage,
Right.
So ultimately it's not that much because if we just did a month, it'll be roughly 4 to 5 thousand
Mhm.
with, cleaning fees and stuff like that.
Which is something I actually want to talk about because part of that $6,261 was an absurd Airbnb service fee for $800. So it
Mm,
wasn't all to their mortgage. It's
yeah,
Airbnb surcharging us. Isn't that crazy?
that is crazy.
$800 for
Airbnb,
what?
do better
Service fee for what?
for being able to host that apartment on their platform, and they also charge the renter themselves to be able to host their apartment on that platform.
It's separate from the cleaning fee too.
Yeah.
It's literally just a service fee. I have issues with that. That's
Airbnb,
BS.
drop in the comments why you charge that service fee.
They are not listening
Yeah,
to
they're
this.
definitely not listening.
The other major expense with moving to Philly has been parking. We don't have a parking spot in our Airbnb, and break it down for us. What are the street options for
Yeah,
us?
so right outside of the apartment, if you're able to grab a spot from 8 in the morning to 6 p.m., it's 2 hour parking. But then after that, it's completely free. But like I said, if you're able to get a spot, and at that point, 6 p.m., everyone's off of work and back home. So
Yeah.
being able to grab a spot is very unlikely, and we had to use a parking garage instead.
Yeah, so we are using a parking garage nearby. There are a couple medical facilities, a bunch of medical facilities actually around us. So we are parked in one of those garages, but it's $25 a day. So the last time we had to leave, it was like $300.
Yeah.
And the parking attendant just looked at me. It was hilarious, actually. He stared at his screen like he'd never seen anybody pay this much for parking, like in his garage. And I was like, yeah, I've been here a couple days. And he was really sweet. He actually offered to give us $70 off if we had cash, which I didn't. So people here are really hospitable and just have been great overall. But parking has been expensive and is going to cost us probably about $1,000 by the time we leave.
Yeah, but also that same $25 a day for the parking garage is the same exact amount that they charge for parking tickets out here. And we have two
Parking
of them,
tickets.
so we know. But the difference is that you can get multiple parking tickets in one day because we did,
Yep.
versus having to pay that one time,
Mhm.
fee of $25 for the parking garage.
These parking attendants out in Philly are ruthless. Oh my gosh.
Up and down the street all day, I see them.
Parking tickets. And yep, we've already gotten two. One was $50, one was 25, so $75 right there. Definitely a not planned expense, but they're ruthless out here. Do not park in places you're not supposed to.
Yeah.
I didn't even do it on purpose when I parked the wrong way. Like I thought that I could park there. I'm not one of those people that just parks and is like fingers crossed. So they are ruthless. They're on
I
it.
am. I'm kind of like whatever happens, happens.
You should have been parking then. Maybe we would have got lucky. But other than that, those are our major expenses. Everything else has been kind of just daily expenses. It's pretty bad, but we haven't even gone grocery shopping yet because we just love going to restaurants locally and just eating when we're hungry and
Yeah.
contributing to the local economy.
We really love the restaurant area in Philly. Like we've come across a lot of great food spots. And like she said, we love to help, contribute to the local economy. And I feel like we've been doing that really well. Tipping well too.
Yeah, but it's also really affordable. Like
Yeah.
every time we've gotten our bill after dinner, I'm like, oh, that's surprising in a good way. It's really reasonably priced. It's not crazy expensive. I mean, yeah, cocktails are $15 at certain restaurants, sometimes 20, but that's like not new to us. We know DC prices.
Yeah.
So
DC pricing.
in general, things have been really cheap. Like, we love going to Max's Produce in Rittenhouse. It's a local grocery store. It's so cute. And I remember one time we got like a bunch of snacks, and they're foreign snacks. So I'm expecting a surcharge. And it was cheaper for us to get all those snacks, including Dubai chocolate and those TikTok viral peach ice
Peaches.
creams
Oh,
and a bunch of other snacks. It was cheaper than like 3 items we got at 7-Eleven.
yeah, it was definitely a lot cheaper. Wasn't expecting that, so that's kind of what made us like start frequenting stores like that, and also what kind of is convincing us not to go grocery shopping because we're getting things for pretty cheap, helping stimulate the economy, and still satisfying that urge to indulge in junk or whatever the case might be.
Yeah, I'd rather eat an affordable, well-cooked meal instead of trusting myself to pull it off at the end of the day.
All right, because
And that's a fact.
yeah, because I'm just gonna make chicken and rice.
Right. We're not doing anything special.
All right.
Other expenses, though, we took a rental car out here to Philly because we had to take 2 cars for the pets. That was what,
Yeah,
$125?
$125. I can't remember what car we got, but it was 125 for the rental, and then I'll say probably $60 for gas, which wasn't a lot.
Yeah, and we didn't take a toll road on the way out. It was like 3.5 hour drive, so no tolls. We only had to fill up gas once, and that was like $50. So really not that bad. And anytime we've had to come back to DC, most of it has been covered by a brand partnership. So it's been about $200 to $300 for us to go either back to DC or to New York, and that's really not that expensive in the grand scheme of things. Other expenses we have are just from experiences. I'm not going to tell you the one that I have planned for us this week because it's a surprise.
Right.
So you have to cover your ears while I tell the camera.
Okay, 1 second.
We're going rug tufting, and that is going to cost $218. Okay, you're good.
I didn't hear anything.
Great. Then earlier in the month, you took us on a fun date to, what was it called? Make clay? Yay clay.
Yay, we went to Yay Clay. We used their retro room too, which was actually really cool.
That was so much fun.
Yeah, but with that, Yay Clay is a pottery class. So we learned how to throw clay,
Mhm.
and make whatever we wanted. We ended up making 2 cat bowls, which we'll be getting in like 3 weeks.
Yeah, they
Um,
ship it. They're going to be ready after we leave. So
yeah,
they're
but
shipping it to
for
us.
2 people, the class came out to I think roughly $300. I'll have to check my receipts just to make sure again. But in the grand scheme of things, we learned a new skill. I got to try out something different, and we got something tangible from that. So that $300 was definitely worth it.
Yeah, we've been having a blast, which brings us to the not so fun charges that we've had recently that were unexpected. Definitely were not part of the plan. Our pets, they have had some issues with adjusting. Now they're doing a lot better, but when we first got here, I was actually more concerned about the cats than anything. I was nervous about them being in a new environment because we've never taken them to a new place. Quinn has moved with us, our oldest dog. She's moved with us from apartment to apartment. So I
Yeah.
wasn't worried about her. I figured Semi would adjust eventually, but our cats I was most nervous about. Tell me why the dogs ended up being the biggest problem and our cats are thriving. I'm actually kind of nervous to bring them back to Northern Virginia because we finally got one of our cats to stop pooping outside her litter. And I'm so terrified we're going to go back and she's just going to like wreak
Go
havoc.
crazy. She's gonna just poop everywhere, poop on the walls. The
But
Dumb
what
and Dumber
happened?
saying.
Right. But what happened to
Yeah,
Quinn and
so
Semi?
with both the dogs, moving them to a new environment kind of took its toll on them. So we always make sure that they're up to date on all their vaccines and shots, which they are up to date for Virginia. Once we moved to Philly, Because of all the rain and the standing water, they ended up contracting a virus, or
Semi didn't. Or if he did, he
he
passed it.
passed it. But they both contracted like this bacterial infection, or what do you
They
want to
called
call it?
it Giardia, which is basically a I would say a blanket statement for stomach issues. They actually never sent me the receipts. So I have to call them
Mm,
to get the actual name of everything. But yeah, she contracted a couple, not worms, but bacteria that is prevalent in Philly.
yeah.
And it just caused a lot of stomach problems. Not to like gross y'all out or anything, but it started getting really concerning after they had had issues, with diarrhea for several days. And then eventually,
Quinn started pooping blood.
yeah, not to be gross about
Yeah.
it,
Don't mean to
but
be, too vulgar, but yeah.
and she vomited blood. So we ended up having to take her. Thankfully, there was a veteran emergency group, a veg nearby. So we ended up taking her there. And if you've ever had to take your dog to the emergency vet, you know what's coming. She got a full round of tests. They took her blood, a full panel. She also got an x-ray because we weren't sure at the time if she maybe had an obstruction or if there was something more serious going on. So we wanted to check off all those boxes. So she got an upper respiratory system x-ray, like her chest and then her stomach. Thankfully, those came back with nothing as an
Correct.
issue,
Yeah.
but the bill was quite expensive just to get those tests. So in total, when we walked out after she got all her testing and including her antibiotics that she went home with, we paid $2,022. And to be clear, we have insurance. We use Lemonade. I'm going to probably do a follow up video with how much money we get back from Lemonade. We love them. We always get money back on our plans with Lemonade. So if you're interested in utilizing them or want a good recommendation, I'll include our referral link in the description below.
That $2,000, but that wasn't the end of it. We
Mm-hmm.
ended up going back to Virginia and taking them to Caring Hands, which is their primary care. And how much did that one come out to?
That cost us $505 for the vet to tell us that they were both okay, that they were doing better. At that point, I wasn't actually so worried about them.
Yeah.
So it was more just making sure that our vet was aware of what was going on and that our vet got a look at them. Because I think we've talked about it in prior episodes, but our oldest Quinn has had many complications. She is basically having an issue where her brain is atrophying. So she's losing function in her back legs. And we were just worried about more complications coming from that. So it was just to make sure that she would get the full checkup from the vet. So we spent about $2,500 on our dogs.
Yeah. For them to tell us that they are okay now.
They're okay now.
But man, all in all,
Tummy issues.
I would always trade that 2,500, to make sure that they're safe. So,
Yep.
but that kind of goes over a lot of our expenses.
What
for
does that
Philly.
total out to be? Under $10,000, but over $8,000.
Yeah.
Not including what we might get reimbursed from Lemonade. So I would say if we didn't include the veterinary expenses that were really like not expected, about $7,000.
I'd say probably a little bit more, including like eat out money and stuff.
Oh
But
yeah, I didn't include that.
yeah, but at the same time, when we're back home, we allot money to eat out anyways. The only
Mhm.
difference is that we're not spending, $300 every 2 weeks to restock the house. Instead, we're distributing that over the course of a few days for dinner.
Yeah, we're spending $300 in 3 days
Right.
on solid restaurant
Right.
meals.
Solid restaurant foods.
But I've had a blast. I feel like that's honestly like we've been on vacation before to not really fancy places. Like I'm thinking about when we went to Cabo.
That's literally what I was thinking.
Yeah, when we went to Cabo and we did an all-inclusive hotel for 5 nights, like not even 5 nights. It might have been 4 nights and 5 days, including the plane, including the hotel. I think it was about $4,000, definitely over two.
And we didn't get the garden while we were there, so.
Right. So if we're comparing, 4 nights, 5 nights in Cabo to 39 nights in this beautiful Airbnb in downtown Philly, I think it's pretty, if you wanted to compare that as a cost, it makes a lot of sense. It feels affordable to me. Definitely a privilege to be able to just spend that money willy-nilly, but that's where we're at this point, and I feel rich because we're able to do that.
Yeah, rich in experiences. Like that's mainly what I look for. Whenever I told you before us getting together, whenever I went to a new country, I always wanted to experience what it was like to be a local.
Yeah.
And this really helps us get deep into that local feel. We walk the streets, we visit the pet shop, we're becoming known in certain areas as
We
locals.
know the baristas, we
Yeah.
know the pet shop people. Yeah, it's so nice to, just be recognized and feel like not recognized in that way, but just feel like we're part of the neighborhood.
Yeah, and like not with the name attached to it,
Hmm.
because that's another thing. Being in DC, because we're so recognizable in DC, whenever we go someplace, we typically get the hey, are you? Hey, are you?
Yeah.
But we can run to the store without really worrying about anybody going, hey, are you?
Yeah. And I
Like,
mean, it happens. It's not a bad thing, but it is refreshing to feel like we're in a unknown territory.
yeah,
So I've had a blast out here.
yeah, I could be anonymous again, and that's a good thing.
But those are our 2 cents this week. We hope that this episode informed you a little bit more about the viral senator interview video that we did, and also shared a little bit of transparency around our move to Philly, what those numbers looked like, and if you're interested in moving to Philly too, what that might look like for you.
And yeah, you guys just heard our 2 cents, so thank you for listening. But also, we'd love to hear what your 2 cents are. So make sure you drop it in the comments, like and subscribe. And thank you again to Capital One Cafe for sponsoring the pod.
Yeah, if you want to redeem a free handcrafted beverage like my sparkling matcha lemonade or James's caramel latte, you can use the link in the description below. It's on us.
And thank you again for tuning in.
Bye.
Bye.